So here I'm entering the playground, and I want to make sure we do a health and safety check of the playground because we find several items on the playground that are overlooked. So the first one I see is the protruding bolts on the fence that are at children's eye level that, according to the performance standards, are a hazard. And there are plastic caps that you can get to put on these. The other thing I noticed that I find a lot is the wire that holds the fence to the post has edges exposed. So those need to be covered also with some kind of plastic caps. And in this playground, I'm seeing several fire ant beds. And so this is a major hazard and a safety issue for children coming out on the playground. This center has a wooden fence on this side of their playground. And I was noticing that there's some sharp edges on this post, which could cause a danger. It's peeling, so you want to make sure that these posts are smooth. Also down here below, there's some exposed nails, which is a serious safety hazard if a child gets poked with those nails. There's also some more nails here, which are even more rusty. So when you have wooden fences, this post is pretty smooth. So just make sure that you're looking at them and there's no dangerous edges on them, dangerous places that children can get hurt. Same way with these. These are pretty smooth, so I think these are okay. All right, so now I'm standing on the playground surfacing under the playground equipment. And this is a soft surfacing, a rubberized surfacing, which is very good for playgrounds. However, not everywhere has this. So if you have mulch, any type of mulch surfacing, you want to make sure that the depth is appropriate and that the border that outlines your playground is free of splinters, protruding bolts, and any rough or concrete edges. Okay, so here, this has some nice soft cushioning, but here it's the exposed concrete, and so that's a severe hazard to children. So this playground equipment is in very good shape, safety and health-wise. If you look at this railing, how nice and smooth the paint is, there's no chips or rust areas. So you want to make sure if you have this kind of playground equipment that there are no paint chips or rusting areas along the railings. Other potential hazards on the playground is uncovered plugs on the building, and this is in the path to the playground. Also, any dripping condensation water from the air conditioner that forms a pool of water below. Okay, so here on the playground, the first thing I see here is a bag of potting soil, and this needs to be kept out of reach of children. And then this is what they bring out on the playground every day. It has supplies in it. It also has a first aid kit, and it's kept in this bin all the time they're out here. So it needs to be out of reach of children, even on the playground. But when you open it, again, they have a list, but it is not up to date or current. And then when you look at the supplies, they have all the regular supplies that you need. But one thing I found was a bottle of hand sanitizer, which isn't on the list. And this one is expired. It expired February 2010. So if you have anything in your first aid kit that is required and does have an expiration date, you need to make sure that it does not expire. So here's a trash can that's out on this playground, and I see a couple of hazards. It's rusting and the paint is peeling. And then also over here there's a big piece of wire sticking out that has a sharp edge. So this probably needs to be replaced. And then here is what we think is an old changing table for outdoors, but it's not being used. So the tarp is dirty, it's torn. So it's probably not a safe item to leave out here on the playground. So here outside on the early Head Start playground, we have some bolts sticking out on the gate, and down here this one is about 1.5 inches long sticking out. So These would be a danger to the infants and toddlers, not the infants, but the toddlers that are down here at eye level. So those need to either be covered with plastic tip or cut off where they're flush with the bolt. So here we're under a shaded area, and we've got lots of materials and equipment here, but it's very unorganized, and the children are not playing here, and I would suspect because it's unorganized. Here on the fence, we have a wooden disc that has 2 protruding screws, and they're sharp on the end and they're also rusting. So those are a danger to the children. We have lots of rust on the chain link fence that's not safe. And then also on the poles, the wire that holds the poles to the fence is exposed, so it has sharp edges. So here in the back corner of the playground is an old utility pole that's not being used anymore, but it is a hazard to children because there are lots of splinters and cracks that would be a possible danger to the children. So usually we try to cover this with something to protect it from hurting the children. So here's a playhouse that we found on the playground, and it's in good condition except it needs a really deep cleaning. It's got quite a bit of dirt and spider webs inside. So here in the early Head Start playground, you can see that all along the concrete edging is exposed. So we really need to fill this in with some dirt to make that a level surface. Here in the corner of the playground, I found this cinder block that was just laying here, which is a hazard to children. This looks like it was left over from a structure that was here. It's not too stable, and I don't really see the use of it, and it is starting to splinter. So it would be a good item to remove to make sure this is not a safety hazard. You see here at the base of the trunk on this tree is a board, but you can see here there's a large rusty nail sticking out, which is very hazardous, and also a screw here at the top. So here's a metal drainage pipe, and when they're metal, you have to be careful that there's not sharp edges. There's sharp edges here and then down here at the bottom. Also, this is pretty cluttered and area that needs to be cleaned up some. So here, this looks like a container that would hold a garden hose, and it's dirty, and I really don't know if it's being used, so if it's not being used, we need to remove it. Right next to it is the garden hose left on the ground, and so that's not a safe item to leave out. And then if you'll notice on the ground, there's quite a few leaves, look like from last year's trees, that we probably want to make sure these are raked up as the year goes by. So here near the air conditioner unit, we have several toys in here that's cluttered up. We need to clean this area out to make sure it's safe and the air conditioner is not affected by that. So here's a metal bench that's outside on the playground at the Early Head Start building, and as you can see, it has quite a bit of rust on the actual seating area, which is a hazard. So here next to the electrical meter, looks like phone cords, we have a wire that's loose just hanging that would be a hazard to children. The wire leads to the ground here with this metal piece protruding, which is not safe, and it also has rust on it. So in addition to checking the playground for health and safety hazards, we must make sure that the staff are supervising the children to ensure that they do not get into any dangerous areas or leave the premises. This time on the playground is important for teachers to be interacting with children, not congregating together in one end of the playground. This is also not a time that teachers should take a break and leave one person on the playground alone with the children. When monitoring your classrooms and playgrounds, remember to use the knowledge you gained from this video. A health and safety monitoring tool may be downloaded from the extranet for your use. Thank you for watching CDI Head Start's Health and Safety Training video.